how to get pregnant, how to conceive, and what worked for me. Start planning your pregnancy 6 months to a year beforehand. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Brittany and I'm a lawyer living in the Silicon Valley and I'm pregnant. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you how to get pregnant, how to conceive, and what worked for me. Obviously, everyone's body is different, everyone's situation and experience is different. This is just what I did and what worked for me. Obviously most of you don't know whether or not you're going to be easily become pregnant or not, and I know that was a fear of mine because I always hear stories and a lot of women struggle with infertility, especially as they get older, and I am 30 years old, so I wasn't sure how my body would react and how long it would take us to get pregnant. So I was blessed that we got pregnant right away. However, for you it may not be the same. So again, this video is just supposed to give you a few tips and things that I learned along the way that I wanted to share with you, but just know that each struggle and each fertility journey is different. So let's get started with the video. So just to preface all of this, depending on your health, it may be wise to start planning your pregnancy 6 months to a year beforehand. Now, if you're not much of a planner like I am, then you can of course just wing it. But if you want to be the most efficient possible and you want to give your body the best chance possible, I would say at least 6 months to a year. And why is this? It's because you really want your body to be in the best shape possible before you have a baby. That means you need to eat a balanced diet, eat healthy foods. You want to make sure you have a healthy exercise regimen. If you're underweight or if you're overweight, you want to make sure that you try to either lose weight or gain weight to become an average weight, because all these factors could affect your fertility. I read a book called Get Ready to Get Pregnant, which talks a lot about nutrition, things that you should be eating. I didn't pay attention to it that closely because I felt like I ate a pretty healthy diet, but you just want to make sure you're not eating junk food all the time. You want to make sure you're getting enough vegetables, legumes, things like that. And so if that's not where you are right now, then you want to make sure you are getting towards that before you try to get pregnant. Exercise is also important because you want to make sure your body is fit, that it is healthy. Again, that's the main takeaway from this part of the video. So next, if you're on birth control, you obviously want to get off birth control. I didn't take birth control personally, so I don't know the exact windows, but I would expect that you would want to get off of it at least a month beforehand so your body can sort of regulate itself, maybe even earlier than that, because, and I'll get to that later, you want to make sure your period is regular. Another thing I didn't know is that you want to start your prenatal vitamins at least a month before you want to start getting pregnant. And again, that's because the prenatal vitamins have a lot of good nutrients that your body will need in order to house the baby and to make sure it's healthy. And so you want to start making sure that your body is getting all of those vitamins and those nutrients way before you actually conceive. So research, look at what you like and what works for you, and start taking that at least a month beforehand. And then the last thing is to regularly track your period, and then we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so next you want to start planning when you want to start trying. And again, if you're not much of a planner, you just want to wing it, then you can skip over this part. But for me, I wanted to know what are my best chances in order to get pregnant. And the best way to do that is really to track your period. So I use the P-Tracker app just on my phone. I've been using it for years now, and it's really easy. All you have to do is just enter in your information of when you get your period, and then you track it, and it knows when your fertile window is and when you are ovulating. And this is based on standards of most women's bodies, so of course your body could be different. And I believe you can also modify in your phone whether or not you ovulate on a certain day, or if your period is not regular, like if you don't have 28 days between your periods. So that's something to take into consideration. But I would start tracking your period as soon as possible, because that way it has enough data about you to give you the best information. So as you can see, the green dots are your fertile window, and then that flower is when you're ovulating, and the dashes are just when you actually have your period. So knowing when your fertile window is and knowing when you ovulate will help you to plan when you need to have sex. Okay, so now that you know when your fertile window is and you know your period, you can now plan when to have sex. So you want to try to have unprotected sex at least every other day during your fertile window. And for some of you that might sound like a lot, but it's because sperm stays in the female reproductive system for up to 5 days. So that means even if you had sex at the beginning of your fertile window, depending on when you actually ovulate, the sperm could fertilize the egg. And because this app is just going off of data, it may not be accurate. You may actually ovulate on a different day than what it says. And so that's why in order to be safe, you have sex every other day just to make sure there's enough sperm in your body to fertilize the egg. And another note is that having sex every day actually does not make much of a difference. If anything, they say that sometimes it decreases the amount of sperm or the quality of the sperm. Remember, it's quality over quantity here. You just need one sperm that's healthy to get to that egg and to fertilize it. So no need to go crazy and have sex every day. In fact, they actually say you shouldn't. And so really you want to aim for every other day, and especially around your ovulation time, because that's when the body produces the egg. So obviously if there's no egg, it can't be fertilized. But remember, the sperm can stay in your body for up to 5 days, so once the egg drops, hopefully the sperm will find it and fertilize it. Okay, so after your fertile window is over, you can relax and you don't have to be so regimented about your sex anymore. And now it's just a waiting game. And the best time to test is really the day after you're supposed to get your period, which is also why it's important to track your period. If you test beforehand, you might get a false positive. It's probably too early to tell. Some women do it. Personally, I think it just stresses me out, so I tried to wait as close to my period as possible. I think I actually ended up testing, if you watch my vlog, the day or two before my actual period was supposed to start, but that's because I kind of had a feeling and I wanted to see. And so if that's you, go ahead. But let's talk about testing. So one tip that my friend told me is to buy these HCG pregnancy test strips. So I'll link below what I bought on Amazon. They're super cheap, and they're not as fancy as like the First Response or the clear blue ones that a lot of people use, but because you will most likely be testing a lot, and if you don't get pregnant right away, you're gonna be testing multiple times over the course of the next few months, this is the cheapest and easiest way to test if you're pregnant, and it's just as accurate. You just basically pee on it and then it shows you if you're pregnant or not. So here's an example. You basically you pee on the end and then you look for the line to see if you're pregnant. The best time to test is first thing in the morning, because that's when your pee is most concentrated. And essentially what these pregnancy test strips are doing is that when you're pregnant, your body produces a hormone called HCG, and so it's testing your hormone levels. And usually if you have high hormone levels of HCG, then you're most likely pregnant. Again, you might want to test multiple times. I tested 3 days in a row just to be sure. And you could also go to your doctor and get a blood test done. However, when I called my OBGYN, they said, if you took multiple pregnancy tests and they were all positive, you probably don't need to come in and take a blood test. It's really up to you, because blood tests are a little more accurate. But for me, I just trusted that it was fine, and I just kept waiting to see if I would get my period, and I didn't. So make sure you test in the morning and test a few times just to be sure. Okay, so now that you are hopefully pregnant, or at least the test says you're positive, what are the next steps? First, I would download a pregnancy app. I'll go over different pregnancy apps that I like in a different video, but this is gonna help you calculate how many weeks along you are, or you could just count on the calendar. The strange thing about counting is that you actually count from the first day of your last period. So even though you technically haven't conceived yet, that's when they start counting. And then when you know how many weeks along you are, you can kind of plan for when you want to see your OBGYN. So for me, when I called my OBGYN's office, I told them I was pregnant, I told them when my last period was, and they said they don't see patients who are lower risk until about 8 weeks. And so at that point I was 4 weeks along, so I just made my appointment for the future and then waited, as you guys saw in my vlog, to see the actual doctor. Most OBGYN offices do not see patients before then because there's not much to see. It could often be disappointing. Usually you want to wait till you can actually hear the heartbeat. That way you know for sure that your baby is developing and that there's more to discuss, rather than doing it too early and being disappointed. Alright, so that is how to get pregnant or how to conceive. Again, everybody is different, every situation is different. This is what happened for me, and yes, we got pregnant on the very first try of that first fertile window, which is crazy, but it may not happen for you and you may have to continue on. And I know it's difficult, but just keep trying at it. There are obviously other things that you can do. You can test your basal temperature to make sure you really are ovulating. There's other apps that get more detailed into maybe the time of day or the day exactly when to have unprotected sex. But for your first time, I would say try this method first because it's pretty painless and it's fairly simple. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. Check out my other pregnancy videos. And of course, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!